Thank you for joining us, and thank you for staying up late with us here on The Factor Uncensored. We have a great program for you. We begin tonight on The Factor with the death of a New Hampshire family where the killer is now on trial as we speak. Cassandra Sweeney, along with her 4-year-old, her 1-year-old sons, were killed by her then 16-year-old brother-in-law. Sweeney's husband's brother, Eric Sweeney, the 16-year-old, is charged with gunning them all down at their home. According to investigators, Eric had been living with the family. The couple was worried about the tension between the two brothers. They had taken steps to have Eric, the 16-year-old, removed from the house. But on August 3rd, it was simply too late. Investigators say Eric walked into the kitchen and shot and killed Cassandra and his 2 nephews. So how does someone remove or evict a volatile, unwanted guest from their home safely? It's a delicate balancing act. Joining me to talk about it tonight, Fort Bend County Sheriff Nabil Shaikh and therapist Dr. Ava Smith. Glad to have you here both on The Factor Uncensored. Now, it's tough enough to get rid of a squatter in your home, but if you have a family member, is that easier if they're staying there with you under your invite and you want them out?
Well, I think every situation is different. First, you have to see if residency was established. So if they're there for a certain amount of days, they've had, their furniture or their clothes and everything else moved in into that unit with you. So every situation would be different, right? If you just invite them over and, they're just refusing to leave and it's just a party or something, first you just always want to remain calm and then try to talk to them, try to get a third party. If that doesn't work, always try to avoid physical confrontations. And then if nothing else works, then contact law enforcement.
Now, if they have established residency there, brought their furniture, their belongings, along with even have mail now delivered there, do you have to go through the JP, what we know here, Justice of the Peace courts, in order to get them out? Or how is it handled that way if they have established that residency? Yeah,
so first you would have to file a 3-day notice. So, you could type up a little letter, if y'all are living in the same residence, and put it on the front door. The CARES Act actually had extended it to, I believe, 30 days, and which made it more difficult for landlords to evict tenants. Once you do the 3 days, then you can go to the Justice of the Peace, and that's when you file the actual eviction, which at that time the constables will then come out and serve anybody that's over the age of 16 years old, typically at least 6 days before the trial is set. And then the JP will then make a judgment, and then after that, the writ of possession.
And Dr. Ava Smith, it's always tough to deal with that family member, to tell them to get the hell out of your house. So how do you balance that without making it a volatile situation like we saw in New Hampshire, where 3 people are now dead?
Right, so it's very important that you have to be the one that remains calm, and you have to be very strategic in how you deal with that individual. So primarily you want to, 1, catch them on a particular day when they're of sound mind. You're able to hold a conversation with them and talk about whether or not if this is a good place in order for them to be, or is it time for them to transition out of the household.
Should you bring in other family members that may be, if you're not the voice of reason in that family, should you bring in other family members to help you with having them move out of the house?
Of course, it depends on the dynamics of the family. So if you have an individual that can better deal with this person, where they're able to connect with that individual, where that person will listen, there's always that one family member that an individual is going to listen to.
The older sister is always.
The older sister or the aunt or someone that's going to listen in that way. So sometimes it's beneficial to bring that person in order for them to hold that conversation, if you can have it.
Now, assess this situation that we saw here in New Hampshire. Your thoughts on that and just how sad it is.
Definitely. It's a very sad situation in the sense with this particular family, there were signs there that something potentially was going to occur. They were seeking assistance and support outside of the home and trying to get this individual removed. So in a situation like that, it was signs that was showing that potentially this individual could be violent. So in a situation like that, if he is not willing to leave, then you have to question whether or not is it time for me to transition, is it time for me to uproot my family in order to, to keep them safe. So in this particular situation one day, so they coined it, he snapped. And therefore he killed all parties that were in the home at that particular point in time. So you never want to engage with a person that is having a mental health breakdown or it has a psychotic break in any way, shape, or form. You want to make sure that you remain calm and transition out of that place and space.
And you said the Sweeneys did everything they could. Do we think the system failed them or it just happened?
My personal opinion, I feel that they were failed. And I feel that they were failed in the sense that there were signs there, that the brother knew that there were signs there. He went to get assistance and support, and there were all of these guidelines and things that had to be followed in order to get him removed from the home. And while they're waiting on this, unfortunately, his wife and his children lost their lives.
And Constable, what would be your first piece of advice if someone has an individual like this in their home, whether it's a family member or friend? What would you tell them to do first if you want them out?
Well, first, I would say to stay calm. And, after you've exhausted the communication, you've exhausted trying to bring in the third party, whether it's another family member or a friend, and, it's leading up, let's say, towards violence, then contact your local law enforcement agencies, seek out the help, and let law enforcement handle the situation. And sometimes there may be mental health warrants, if there's things that are going on psychologically with that individual, then law enforcement's able to come in and file mental health warrants.
All right, Constable Shaikh, Dr. Smith, thank you both for joining us here on this valuable information for The Factor and for viewers out there. A lot of people go through this. Thank you both.